Yongani Kvyat with Dan walking out onto the grid. And, of course, Danny has taken Dan's driver, Toro Rosso, this year. Huge talent. Mark?
Greg, I spoke to you about the photographers, and we don't want to get in anyone's way because they get a little bit snaky. This is the one shot that you see around the world for the season of the drivers all lined up. There's got to be 100 cameramen there and quite a few film crews. And they're moving around onto the driver area now as they all take their positions. And one of the things I'm really looking forward to this year, Rusty, which you can explain a little bit, is the fact that the boys have got their own numbers. So Nico Rosberg has chosen the number that his father had on his car when he won his World Championship. Lewis Hamilton has chosen a karting number that was very successful him on his earlier on in his career, and that will go through them, Greg, for the rest of the season and indeed the rest of their careers.
It's a great identity thing, Mark. You know that in NASCAR and lots of other forms of motor racing, the number is part of their signature, if you like. So Hamilton running with 44, a very successful number for him back in the karting days, obviously. For the world champion there, Sebastian Vettel, it is number 1. Dan Ricciardo, number 3. He detailed that before, a number that he had in his first days as a junior in racing.
I like the way they're putting the numbers on the top of their helmet. I think that's a great idea, because when we get those forward shots from the top of the roll bar looking forward, a lot of the times it's difficult to see what car you're in, quite frankly. And when they've got the numbers on top of the helmet like that, you can pick them up immediately.
Let's go to Daz.
Hey, Rusty, I'm just in the group with the rest of the photographers, seeing exactly the same as what you're seeing at the moment. All the drivers are up on the podium, as we said, doing the pictures. The funniest thing for me was when all the photographers arrived here, the challenge, Rusty, to get onto this podium here and find the prime position. People were tripping over, I'm sure, with gravel rash as well. They were all trying to dive for the best position. But the clouds are something that you can notice at the end of the front straight here at the moment. It's starting to roll in a little bit. No rain just yet, but it's getting darker and darker, Rusty.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens weather-wise, Daz, come race start this afternoon. A little bit of rain might help some competitors. In the dry, it does seem like Mercedes have that 1 second a lap in the back pocket. It would work well for Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Far right of your screen, of course, Kevin Magnussen, who we spoke to before. Wonderful debut. He'll come from the second row of the grid today. Position 4. No drama after an investigation overnight about whether he had failed to slow for those yellow flags. He was given the all clear. Let's go to Mark again.
Well, you're talking about the weather. Being a local, Greg, it has been coming and going. It was sprinkling about 15 minutes ago. It's only a light breeze at the moment, so there's a bit of cloud scudding overhead. But what I can tell you is there's a big crowd in the house, obviously, along this front grandstand. Remarkably, yesterday in qualifying, you could hear the crowd roar when Ricciardo put it on pole, and then groan when Lewis Hamilton took him in the dying stages of qualifying. With those engines, the V6 turbo this year, that don't make as much noise. For the first time in my time at Albert Park, you can actually hear the crowd roar when something happens, and you can hear the tyres squeal. So it's going to be amazing to see what the crowd does as this whole thing gets underway, and hopefully Daniel Ricciardo can get away to a clean start.
Yeah, most definitely, Howie, and I think the crowd's starting to cheer now, which is absolutely fantastic for Daniel Ricciardo. We heard that yesterday at the end of qualifying, but now everyone here on the front straight starting to cheer him on and yell out his name. And as he said, that support, no matter who you are, a sportsman or sportswoman around the world, when you get that home crowd support, it gives you goosebumps and just makes you lift that little bit extra. And Mark Webber was talking about that yesterday at certain Grand Prix that he used to go to. There's just that lift that you get, and you can't explain it, just that adrenaline and the feeling where you just want to push on.
Give me some info.
Rusty, all the formalities down here as we speak. Sky down here getting ready for their program, and we take their feed a little later today. And I just had a bit of a chat with Johnny Herbert before, always a great friend. I used to spend some time with him in Europe when I was racing in Europe, and Damon Hill here with him as well. And they're very excited about today, and a lot of unknown, as we all know. But as Kevin Magnussen touched on there as I was walking along with him, fuel would be a massive talking point.
And of course, this is a special drivers' parade this year. We want to say a huge shout out to all of the volunteer workers, the Bushfire Brigade, the SES, all involved. It's been a tough time for Victoria over summer. These guys do a wonderful job. The Grand Prix Corporation and the Premier, Dr. Dennis Napthine, very much behind this initiative. Dan Ricciardo giving them a nice thumbs up. That's wonderful. The two guys to his immediate left, your right on screen, Pastor Maldonado, who was with Williams last year, and Romain Grosjean, the Lotus drivers. They've had a very difficult start to the season, Alan, haven't they? Well, they won't feature, it would seem, unless something weird happens today. It's unlikely they'll be in the mix, despite them entering as the defending winners of this Grand Prix.
Absolutely, Rusty, without any doubt. And I could just add my two bobs worth. I think it's absolutely fabulous to see those rural firefighters given the honour of doing some laps in those trucks. They do an unbelievable job.
Absolutely.
But no, I think the Lotuses are struggling big time, and I think the drivers are struggling to try and come to grips with them. I think both of them have been over-driving those cars, and I think with the way, you get a certain amount of run on braking and so forth and so on, these cars need to be treated with kid gloves. You've got to really put the power on gently and smoothly. You've got to brake gently and smoothly, and they just haven't got to terms with that at the moment.
Great moment for Dan Ricciardo. He's finished in the points here before at Albert Park for Toro Rosso. He's never finished in the top 6, though, in 50 previous starts. Will today be the day? He said the car is capable of a top 5 finish in the wet. He is a genuine podium contender. So it'll be weather dependent, but it was a tremendous performance. He was a man for all seasons. Mark Webber said the man of the match in qualifying. He didn't get pole, but he did a wonderful job right throughout the qualifying session. It is chaos down there at the moment as everyone tries to get a piece of the action.
Rusty, he did a great job. There's no doubt about that, because as he said before, it just wasn't one fluke lap. He was consistently up there quickest in all 3 sessions, and that was no fluke whatsoever. And apart from anything else, in the past we've seen when a sprinkle of rain comes during a Grand Prix, it normally livens it up and throws a bit of action. So, A, that could happen, and B, with a bit of luck, it could go in Daniel's favour.
His sister Michelle is here, all the family, his brother-in-law as well. I spoke to his dad, Joe Ricciardo, last night, and he could barely talk to me on the phone. He'd been screaming his lungs out during that qualifying session, but that's fantastic. I think there's something in the order of 40 or 50 friends that have come from Western Australia. It's some great number. Family's hugely important to Dan, and they're here in force to support him. Marcus Ericsson there a moment ago, who will drive, of course, for the Caterham team this year, the 23-year-old, the first Swedish driver to race in Formula One since Stefan Johansson for Footwork in 1991. Lewis Hamilton heads off. He's got a great record here, the 2008 Australian Grand Prix winner, 4-time podium finisher in Melbourne. Kimi Räikkönen back in red colours after winning the race for Lotus last year. He won the 2007 Australian Grand Prix for Ferrari as well. Wonderful to see him back in red colours. Jenson Button, a 3-time winner at Albert Park. He's won 3 GPs here since 2009. He's got an unbelievable record at this place. Gutierrez, well, overnight, of course, he copped a gearbox penalty, but it means he'll start from 21st position today. You get 5 grid spots for a gearbox change. They have to last so many races, the gearboxes and engines in this sport.
Some beautifully restored old Triumphs out there too, Rusty. They look good, don't they?
Wonderful to see Kamui Kobayashi back in the sport as well. We didn't see him last year, has been a former Sauber driver, of course, and kicked off things with Toyota in his Formula One career. Been a podium finisher at Suzuka, of course, and a cult figure in Japan. Mark?
It's one of the great scenes, to be honest, Rusty, as the drivers go past the crowd. They spend a lot of time waiting to see these boys and to see them up close and in the flesh. The crowd really enjoying it as they go around the circuit now, and all the people that come here this weekend just hoping to catch a glimpse of the heroes. They get that small opportunity. So it's great to see them travelling around. Daryl Beattie, you would have done this around MotoGP tracks around the world, just soaking it up out there on the bike and meeting the crowd, which is it's all about, Daz, even when you're a superstar like these boys are.
Yeah, the sooner we get off me, the better, Howie. Rusty, an interesting point. I was just talking to Andy from Lotus, who's a good friend of yours, and he was just saying, I just said to him, you know, what's going on today? It seems like you as a team, Lotus Renault, are going to be probably in the most trouble out of any of the teams. And he said most definitely, he said we missing that first test at the start of the season has been very, very difficult for us, and we're that couple of weeks behind the rest of the teams. He said today is going to be one of the toughest days for us in Grand Prix racing, but no doubt we know what the Renault's doing in the Red Bull car, and there'll be very soon that we'll be competitive again, and that comes straight from Lotus.
There's been some personnel change there, obviously, Daz, over summer. Hopefully they can regroup. They lost Eric Boulier, who's gone to McLaren Mercedes for the 2014 season. That was a big coup as far as McLaren was concerned. He's gone there, of course, to be the racing director. Ron Dennis, the chairman and CEO of the McLaren Group, back in a very prominent role with the team. But it's this guy who's getting the cheers from the crowd. One of the benefits of the big change in Formula One, the move to these hybrid-powered V6 turbocharged engines, is the different sound. It's quieter than the old V8s. You could hear the roof lift on this place from the crowd yesterday. They were right behind Dan Ricciardo after that brilliant effort in qualifying. Massa didn't quite qualify as high up the order as we expected. Strong in the pre-season, Alan. Hopefully he can challenge for a podium today.
Well, you know, as I keep on saying over the last 4 days, if you were a betting man and you told me you weren't, but you know, he would be a really good each-way bet on the podium. I think he's a good race driver. The Williams has proven to be reliable, and it's proven to be quick. So I've got high hopes for him. Obviously, I want him to do really well because it's my old team.
We'll take a commercial break here. The young star, the 19-year-old who managed to qualify in the top 10 yesterday for Toro Rosso. He takes over from Dan Ricciardo in that seat. He'll start in 8th position today. A break and back with more live from Albert Park.